Hey guys, I got a really good episode for you today. It is, I'm just going to go over the roller coaster ride I just went through buying this last property we just bought. Okay, it's a fixer upper, but from the moment we put in the offer all the way until we closed, it was a little up and down, changing of dates. Oh, there's an ex-wife involved now, lots of drama, lots of fun negotiations, lots of just really trying to understand the seller and where they're coming from so that we can make a deal work that's really going to be beneficial for both of us. So, with that said, I'm going to be talking about some of the dates and timelines. So I may have to look at my notes because there's so many of them. I cannot remember exact dates and exact times, but you'll see me looking down and looking at my notes and letting you know. But anyway, before we get started, hey, can you subscribe to this channel, like it, and put comments on there so that I know you're watching, and that please let me know what kind of information you want for me to cover. Ask some questions that I can follow up on so that I can research, I can, give you the answers you need. Ask those other experts in the field to really find out what they do, because everybody does it differently. Everybody deals with the same situations very differently, just from where they're, with their experiences. So let's find out from everyone and all the experts. I'm going to interview these people. I want them to be able to share with us how they've gotten through all these different challenges. So we need some questions to ask them, and I need some questions to answer. So go ahead and put your questions and your comments down below, and let's get this going. So, all right, let's get this started. I'm going to call this house Mill Street because that's what it's on. We got into this house became in our radar when it was like middle of August, and my sister-in-law is trying to move here, and I've been asking, I've been working on her to move here for like a couple years. Now she's ready to, and she wants to move here, but she lives in Texas and doesn't want to live next door to somebody super close and looking into another person's window. So she's looking for a little bit of space, but and beautiful views, and we got plenty of that where we live. So we came across this property. It needs work, but it's in a beautiful area, a small town, and it's just really nice and peaceful and serene. So that's, I'm like, okay, this is nice. So I sent it to her, and she loved it. Just from the picture, she loved it. She's like, this is great. I want this. Well, it was on the market for $395,000. We knew that the area supports that number, but the house didn't support the numbers. The house we know there was roof work. It was just dated and it was run down, and you can tell it just wasn't well kept. It was renters that lived there for a while. The yard was a total disaster. But, it's okay. Those are just things that we can look past because we can see the vision of what it could be at the end. So we're like, all right, let's look into it. So we walked through it, and we're like, okay, I think that I would be okay. I would be comfortable with buying this property for like $250,000. Now again, they're asking for $395,000, but it's pretty rundown, and my thoughts are, yeah, it's financeable, but I want the seller to feel like it's not financeable. The seller doesn't live there. He hasn't been there for a long time. And so we just want him to understand, like, it's going to be a pretty difficult loan. So the price needs to be good enough, or it needs to have some other terms, right? That's the way it is. So we put in two offers. We put in a $250,000 cash offer, and then we also put in a owner financing offer of $350,000. We'll bring in $100,000. They finance $250,000 for 2 years at a 5% interest rate. Those were the two offers we put in. Now, if it was for me and I was gonna, fix it up and flip it, $350,000 is too high. I don't want to pay that. But my sister-in-law really liked it, and she was like, well, is it a good deal if it's at $350,000? If I put in $50,000 and fixes it up, I'm gonna live there. So we're like, okay, in that situation, because it's something you want and you want to live in, and you can work on fixing it up as you go. All right, maybe that's worth it. So that's the offer we did. And they came back fairly quickly, the seller, and said, we'll take the $350,000 offer, and it will be a owner financing loan for 2 years. And so it'll be about $1,000 a month, monthly payment. And we asked for it to be interest only so that the payments was low, so that she had the money, as much money as she could to use to fix it up and remodel it, right? It also has like a little casita, which is terrific, but it's pretty run down. It's, you could tell. And the next video, I'll show you pictures of videos of how bad it looks. Just, water damage, the roof, you can tell there's a major roof leak, and it just damaged the walls and the ceiling, just different things like that. So we put in the offer, and they accepted the $350,000. So we're like, great. We got, 45 days of due diligence. In the meantime, we've called a roofer, and the roofer is saying, yeah, it needs the whole roof. It wasn't even installed properly, but it's a roofer, and we know that they're highly motivated by, replacing the roof, right? So it's okay, because we wanted the what's the worst case scenario, and they're like, and the roofer said it's probably going to cost like $20,000. Okay, sounds good. So then, we're going through their seller disclosures, and we're looking at the property, and we start to notice like there's a big hole with fluid inside this hole in the ground in their backyard. And it looks like this hole has been covered by this massive stone, but you can see the potential erosion, which is creating this teeny little, hole between the stone and the ground, where we could see inside and see water in there, and going, why is there this big hole? And it's next to the house. So we ask the seller, because it's not written anywhere in the seller disclosure, and they're like, oh, well, that's the old septic. But we have a new septic now, and it's up to code and everything is fine. And that's the first time we heard it's septic, that this property has septic, because on their listing and on their disclosures, it didn't say anything about septic. We're like, what? And so we find out that city, as of right now, doesn't have city sewer. It's all septic. Great. And then the seller says, oh, and by the way, the septic works fine, but the leach lines are clogged. There's leach line issues. Oh, really? So we're like, well, we wouldn't have offered you what we offered you if we had known that there was going to be septic, and that there's leach line problems, and a roof that was not installed properly in the first place. So we went back and asked for a price reduction. So it came back down to, now we're down to $330,000, and same terms of 2 years. And somehow we were able to get it to the point of payments was going to be like around $900. It was still about $1,000 interest only, and everything looks good, right? We're like, okay, good. So that was going back and forth. Now we're into due diligence time. That was end of August was when we got into contract. Now we're into September, and I believe we were supposed to close end of October. So we're getting through all this process, and then I get a call from my title company maybe a week or two before, literally like, so the $330,000 was renegotiated once we found out about the roof and all this issues with the possible major problems with this hole, as well as the leach lines, and we did that right before the due diligence date, deadline, so that we don't lose our money. So we're all good. We got this all under contract, and ready to go, and we're ready to close at the end of October, because they're the bank. Well, our title company calls us and said, hey, I'm really concerned about this property, and this is like a week before. The other issue is now we have two title companies, the seller's title company and the buyer's title company, right? Because we always use the same title company if we can, just because they know us and we just work very well together. So then they contact the seller's title company, and there's a lot of conversation that has to go through several different layers. So the title company escrow officer calls me and says, I'm really concerned about this loan. And I'm like, what's the problem? She said, well, I don't know if you read the title report, but it has a loan on it, and it was a loan modification that was done a couple years ago. So the bank is already, unsure about this client, and what they are wanting to do is a wraparound loan. And I was like, what? None of the agent or the seller has ever brought up such a thing as a wraparound loan for this deal. And then she says, well, they owe like around $70,000, but because of all the modifications that they've done, the mortgage is around, including escrow, is around $1,000. So she's like, I'm really concerned that if you are paying $1,000 and their escrow changes and the cost is more, they're going to be upside down. There's no value. And I was like, wait a second. First of all, I didn't agree to a wraparound loan. Second of all, you absolutely make sense. It would not be beneficial for us to be paying a loan that's just right what they owe. There's no margin for changes in that mortgage. Plus, I'm like, wait a second. Okay, wraparound loan, just in case you're not sure what that is that the seller has a loan with the bank, but the seller is negotiating a loan with me, and the seller is pretty much going to pay the bank with my money I pay him. Okay, and we're going to use an escrow company so the money doesn't go to him, the money goes directly to the bank. But the bank doesn't know me from Adam. The bank is not in contract with me. If the bank decides to call the note due, they're calling the note due from the seller. Well, what happened to all the money that I'm going to put in, right? I have $100,000 in, I've been paying payments. This is not going to work. So all of a sudden we're like, wait a second, this is not going to work. Let's start over, right? So that's October, end of October, like literally within days of us signing. So we got to start all over again. And we said, well, okay, that's not going to work. So let's go back. We'll still do this offer, but we need you to pay off the loan. We're not doing a wraparound loan. We need you to pay off the $70,000 from the proceeds of this $100,000. Well, come to find out, with what they think the payoff amount is and all the fees that comes with, doing a transaction, they don't have enough money at $100,000. So a new deal comes through. And I'm like, I'm not going to give you any more money than I'm already giving you, down payment. But to get this going, I'll bring in 110,000, and I already have an escrow account. I already have deposit of 5,000, so it'd be 115,000 I'll bring in. The new agreement is you got to pay off the mortgage, and 2 years, all that. But with the money coming in, that's more down payment. The monthly payment's now around like $750. That's the number they came back with. Is the 2-year loan will be $750 interest only, but they also wanted us to pay another $40,000 in the middle of next year. And we're like, fine. So then we'll have a smaller loan and a smaller payment for the rest of the 2 years. Okay, fine, we'll agree to that. So we're going to bring into 115,000. The rest of the purchase price of 330 will be financed by the seller, and all will be good. Okay, great. So we set a new date. It was supposed to be November 15th. So we're like, all right, sounds good. Let's get the paperwork done. Let's get a payoff amount from the lender so we can move forward. Well, all of a sudden, we hear that, wait, there's attorneys involved because he's actually going through a divorce, and his current wife put a stop to the sale until they can figure out a deal where they both can benefit, right? She wanted money out of this house. I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know their situation. I just know there's 2 attorneys involved, and anytime attorneys get involved, it gets messy. So we're talking like now another week of delay. So it's like, oh my gosh. Okay. Luckily for us, my sister-in-law has not moved here yet. We're not in a hurry. We don't need to, buy a property that needs fixing up and she's not even here. So we're okay with waiting. So we're not in a super hurry, but we want them to know that this is definitely an inconvenience, and that it is definitely not very conducive to a normal purchase contract. So we wait, and they're like, okay, the obvious that the wife wants certain amount of money coming out of this deal, and then she wants the rest in the next 2 years and split it, or I don't know what the terms were. So we're like, okay, fine, sounds good. In the meantime, they're trying to get a payoff amount, and the lender comes back and says, oh, I think we might need an appraisal. They have a lot of issues, and because it was loan modified, we're not going to give you the payoff amount until you get the sellers to sign this paperwork that talks about how we won't hold them harmful, just legal mumbo jumbo. So we're like, all right, so another week gets delayed. We get the paperwork from the bank, we sign it, and it had to be notarized. So my sister-in-law, who's in Texas, had to go find have a notary come to her, and she had to meet them in a fast food place, because where she lives is very rural and it's out of the way. So we get all that done, and okay, we're ready to close again. Now we're into November, and then the buyer side gets more delayed because the wife's attorney and the seller's attorneys are not agreeing about the terms and how it should all be worked out. So now we needed to delay some more. So now we move to December beginning. Now, granted, this started in August, end of August. So at this point, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is taking so long. So I said, why don't we just redo another offer? And we will do another offer, but let's bring up the cash offer at $350 again. Let's see if they'll take that. They said no. They're gonna try to work this out, and we're like, okay, fine, we'll just wait it out. Well, the payoff comes in, and the payoff amount is more than what they expected. And because it was more than what they expected, the loan payoff is not the amount that I'm bringing in of 110,000 is not going to be enough. What it will end up happening is they'll pay off everyone, and they each walk away with like $1,000, and then they have 2 years of dealing with each other and splitting $750 a month until we decide to, refinance. So they're like, oh, there's a problem. And the wife's like, absolutely not. I'm not going to take that. I want more money. And the seller just doesn't have any more money to give her because there's no value, she couldn't get any more out. And they're like, well, will you bring in more money? I was like, no, I'm not going to bring in more money. I already, started to bring in a lot more money, and more than I wanted to. So we brought up the owner financing offer again. Not owner financing, I mean the cash offer again. And they're like, no, we want it to be owner financing. And I said, well, you guys need to make a decision. But this is what I'll do. Because now we're into December. And they're like, well, I'm not sure what we're going to do because the wife wants more money and we're still negotiating. I said, this is what I'm willing to do. I will put another offer in of cash offer, and I'll even raise it to 260,000. But that's it. I'm not going to go any more than that because it doesn't make sense for me to tie up my money and have it be this property that needs all this work. But initially, I've always thought 250 was a good deal. 260 is still a good deal, I think. So we did the offer. The wife's like, no, we need $290,000 cash. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So we go back and forth, and the seller comes to us and says, well, if we take the 260, can we close in 2 days? Fine, we can close any day you want. I've been ready for the last 3 months. They're like, okay, sounds good. This would be the day before Christmas. They wanted to close on the 23rd. And we were like on the Friday before or something. And so we said, okay, go ahead. But, let's do that. Well, we waited, nothing came. And then the Christmas Eve, they're like, oh, well, can we, we'll take 260. The seller is going to compensate his wife for whatever amount she wants out of his proceeds. And that way we're done. Because I've been telling my agent to tell his agent, like, really spell it out for him. By the end of the whole 2 years of headache and dealing with your ex-wife the whole time, you're only going to make a little bit more money, maybe 50,000, if that, 40,000, and you have to split that with your ex-wife. Like, it's really not that much money, maybe $20,000 each of you in order for you to break even, and you're going to have to deal with a buyer and your ex-wife for the next 2 years. Is it really worth it? And this is where it's hard. Like, I wish I had access to the seller directly because I could portray that concept, but trying to portray it through my agent, through their agent, and then to them. Either way, I think the guy's smart enough to figure it out. Like, I really don't want to do this for the next 2 more years. So he came back with the 260, and we needed to close as soon as possible. Again, not my problem. So we were supposed to close by the end of December. So we did close at the end of December 2024, 27th of December 2024. And because it was a cash offer, we ended up having to go use the seller's escrow company And so my poor escrow company that worked for me, they worked so hard for this deal. And it was just a constant every day. Are we closing today? Oh no. Oh, okay, then I need to get the notary out there and we need to get, get it connected with my sister-in-law. And then, oh no, nothing's happening. Oh no, we're gonna sit on this for a weekend. And, just constant up and down, up and down. It was just like, I felt more bad for them. And then to come out at the very end, they don't even get the deal. It's not, they don't even, nothing, they don't even get the deal because we went cash. So I felt bad, but we gave them a lot of deals. So I just need to go give them a hug and take them some food for lunch and really just show them how appreciative I am of them. But at the end of the day, it was a $395,000 listing price, which I think there's a value. There's plenty of value. I think it's probably worth $450,000 if the property was in good condition. And we ended up getting it for $260,000. So what do you think? Do you think that's something that you would consider doing? Is it a good deal? I think it probably needs anywhere between 50 to maximum 100,000 maximum. I mean, it needs a lot of paint, maybe some new flooring, appliances. So what do you think? Tell me what you think. Tell me what you would have done differently. I really was trying to understand and help the seller, but also help ourselves at the same time. So I would love to hear from you and give me some advice going forward. I'm going to do a series where the next time I go up, I'm going to videotape the house to show you what the condition it is, kind of thoughts on what we need to do next. I'm going to call several roofers and try to get some ideas of what needs to be done. And if they all say independently that the roof needs to be completely replaced, okay, I think it makes sense. Is there a way to save it, salvage it, maybe repair some of it and not the whole thing? I don't know. Let's find out, right? Worst case, we got $30,000 or $20,000. So if we can reduce that, that would be great. The other thing we did was we asked them to give us home warranty up to $1,200. So I was able to buy the supplemental policies for septic and roof. They don't cover a lot, but they cover enough that if there is anything, then I could be protected. But it also covers appliances. So we just got a stove that we were told that it has, it's kind of inconsistent with the heating at times, but we got it for free. So we'll put it in there. We'll call home warranty. It'll cost us $75. They'll either fix it or they'll replace it. Same thing with HVAC, same thing with our fridge, all these things. So I really am a big proponent of, home warranties if you are willing to work it, because it takes a little bit of effort to work around their their guidelines, but it works. They're good. So, let me know what you think. What else can I do going forward? And look for the next video that's going to be coming up where we go up there and videotape everything. I mean, there's 2 toilets missing, I believe, out of 3 bathrooms. Well, 4 bathrooms, I think. So, stuff like that. But they're not hard to do. They're just going to be time consuming and it's going to cost some money. So anyway, I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you learned something, and I hope you can share with me something. Okay? Talk to you soon. See you later.